Brandy. I am the owner and artisan behind Brushed by Brandy, and I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit today about how I choose pieces that I'm going to work on and some things to look for that could be a red flag on pieces. The reason I wanted to talk about this right now is because it's a pertinent topic to me because I've got this piece right here. And this was brought to me by a customer. I had seen photos of it, but when it was actually brought to me, there's a lot more going on with it than what I could see in photos. So I'm going to use it as an example to share with you guys. So generally, I prefer to work on pieces from my own stockpile because if I choose the pieces and bring them home, I can select pieces that are, number one, solid wood, that are in reasonably good condition with the exception of some cosmetic work. I can look for things like if they've been painted before, is the painted finish in good enough condition that I can paint over the top, or does it need to be stripped completely back? And a lot of these are things that customers don't always know to look for, and so they end up bringing me pieces that are really probably not worth putting the time into. So my customer did say that this is a piece that she got for free off of her local marketplace, and I can tell that it was for free for a reason. So I'm going to show a lot of these flaws to you guys in hopes that it will help for people to know what to look for when you're choosing furniture. So one of the first red flags on this piece that came to me was rusted hinges. I can tell that this piece has been wet at some point because the hinges are rusted out, and they're rusted on the outside of the body as well as the inside. So you can see this rust damage here. I can also look at the inside wall of this piece, and I can tell by the texture that this is made of particle board and it's been wet at some point because it's got some swollen damage to it. I can also look at the inside of this door, and I can see the seams of it that this is made from plywood. So it's not a high quality, well-made piece at all. I've got particle board, I've got plywood, and then my rusted hinges. If I come back to the outside of this piece, I can tell that this has been painted before. Now, number one thing I look for with a painted finish is it in good enough condition that I could paint over top. That means no chipping or peeling in the existing paint finish. Otherwise, that needs to come off because anything I put over top is not going to prevent chipping or peeling. It's going to chip and peel along with the base that's underneath. So it puts my new finish at risk. This piece needs to be stripped before anything could be done to it. And because it's got slatted doors, stripping this would be completely a pain. The reason I say that it needs to be stripped is because if you look at this existing paint finish, it is chipping and peeling. This all I can chip off with my fingernail. So this existing paint finish is in very poor condition. In here, I can chip off parts of the paint finish with my fingernail. It needs to be removed before anything that I put over top would be vulnerable to that as well. The other thing I'm looking at is this has a wax finish on it. Wax is a resist. Dixie Belle does make water-based waxes that you can paint over top of, but I do recommend any other wax finishes that are oil-based, you want to remove them before painting over. This has a wax finish on it, and it is an oil-based wax. I can tell by feeling it, but what I'm looking at here is if you look in the corners of this, it has wax so thick that I can scrape it off with my fingernail. It is extremely thick wax on there. So it is so gummed up in between these slats here that removing it would be near impossible. It's so thick and chunky in spots. I can look on the back of the slats, and some of them are gummed up on the inside, like right here, with chunks of thick wax. That is a chunk of wax right there. That would be near impossible to remove. There's another chunk of wax right inside here. Okay, so these are not things that I would want to paint over. This piece needs to be cleaned really well and stripped back. It's not a very high quality paint finish. Whoever painted this before, there's some globs right here. I've got drip marks all over the place. It's not a very high quality paint finish. So you want to look for what products. A lot of times you can't tell what products were used, but in this case I can tell that an oil-based wax was used, and I don't want to paint over it. It's on there so thick it's going to resist whatever I put over top. That combined with the fact that the paint finish is in such poor condition and the materials this piece is made of, I just don't think it's worth the effort to strip it back down to its complete wood and repaint it again. The cost would be astronomical to do that. And for a piece that's not sentimental, I don't think the time value is there. So these are a lot of things you want to look for when you're choosing pieces of furniture. Sometimes free is not always the best. Let me show you something else that's going on with this piece. This is an old record cabinet. If I lift this top up, it's been stripped out. someone has cut holes in the body of it and they didn't replace it with any other substrate. So it would have to be rebuilt on the inside as well to cover up these holes that are going on the inside. Okay, so what do I look for when I'm choosing a piece of furniture? Like I said, if it's been painted before, I want to see that finish. Is it in good enough condition that I can go over top, or do I need to strip it back? And then that's a completely different scale of work. I look for solid wood. You can turn your piece around and you can see seams in your furniture. I look for the construction of the pieces. You can look at the seams on the back of a piece and tell if it's veneer that's seamed together. Veneer is solid wood, but it's two different species of wood that has been seamed together. Or do you have particle board underneath? If you look at the back of a piece, you can usually see evidence of particle board too. When I'm going to pick up a piece, I pull out all the drawers. I make sure that none of the glides are broken. Pull them out. Look at the bottom of them. See if those glides are broken. Assess the repairs at that point before you bring it home, because once it's home with you, you're committed to making those repairs. So I assess the repairs. You also want to be sure any materials that you may need to buy for a repair. Say you need to replace drawer glides. Well, if it's a piece that you're paying at the top of your budget for and you've got to replace all of the drawer glides at, say, $15 a piece, then you know that you need to come down in that price to accommodate that. Look at things like, is it missing hardware? Because if you need to replace all your hardware can be pricey too. That would be something to assess in your costs that you're paying for the piece. So look over those repairs. I don't hesitate to do that even while I'm standing in front of the person who's selling it. They're usually really understanding that I'm looking through the piece and assessing it before I bring it home. Drawer glides can be expensive to repair. Is the drawer box broken and falling apart? You want to know all of these things and accommodate that cost when you're making a decision how much to pay for a piece. So construction, assessing repairs, the quality of the existing finish, those are things to definitely look for when you're considering to bring a piece home. So unfortunately, this piece behind me is not a piece that I'm comfortable working on. I don't think it's worth saving. It was out free for a reason because it's got a myriad of problems with it. I'm going to go ahead and pass on this one, and I just let my customer know that there's nothing I can do that will do it justice. But don't feel like you can't say no to a piece before you bring it home too.